Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Marianne Hauser, and I'm a master coach and the owner at Serendipity Action Coach of Central North Carolina. Today, I have Domingo Isasi of J&L Construction here as my guest, and we're going to talk about his business and his really interesting journey from law enforcement into corporate America, and now as a principal at J&L Construction. If this is the first time you're on this channel, be sure to do all those things that everybody wants you to do. Hit like, hit subscribe, make sure you drop a comment if you found this interview interesting and stimulating. And if you have a question for Domingo, I'm sure we can get it to him after the interview is over, if you happen to be watching this not live. So Domingo, welcome and thank you for being here today. Can you just give us a brief overview of your organization as it stands today and what your key focus is?
Definitely. Thank you very much, Marianne, for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to chat with you about my business, a subject that I can wax on for a long time, but I'll keep it very interesting and pithy for your audience. So today, J&L Construction is basically myself and my business partner, Jose Londoño, and I will tell you that finding the right business partner, if you're going to be kind of in business together, that's at the top of the list of important things to do, and to start with that. So I was lucky enough to know a guy for 20 years, and we've gotten along so well. And so that we are the principals of the business. His son is also involved. He's one of our superintendents. My wife does the accounting side. She's also a realtor, though she basically is focused mostly on doing that, for our company. And then we have a large number of subs that we use. But we're really focused on high value residential and commercial construction, which today really means, honestly, at the top of the market and kind of at the entry point of the market. The midpoint of the market is pretty soft now. So we're focused on the, call it, million and above houses. We're focused on the, say, 325 and below houses. And right now we're kind of staying away from the middle. And of course, we are working on various and sundry commercial projects as well. But that's where the business sits today. And happily, we've experienced some significant growth in the past several years, and we continue on that trajectory.
Awesome. So I know this is not part of my questions, but with the interest rates being what they've been, because my son just purchased a house out in Calgary, how has that affected your business significantly, or does that side of the market not really worry so much about that?
Yeah, no, oh yeah, it definitely has affected the business. But what it does is it tends to delay rather than prevent construction. Because what happens is there's a group of folks who kind of are in a house and have thought about upgrading, but they're just not going to because they've got a good rate and they don't want to change. But that demand builds up. And especially when you have first-time home, which is why the first-time home buyers are still going, is because even at a higher interest rate, you're still better off owning a house, paying your own mortgage than in an apartment paying someone else's mortgage.
Absolutely.
So, or in a house. So that is there. And interestingly enough, in the Brookberry Farms million and above type of houses, a lot of that is mostly cash. So again, it doesn't tend to affect the interest rates. Those, call it the $400,000 to $700,000 houses, those mid-range houses, it's kind of like solid upper middle class that we love building. Right now, it's very soft. It is starting to firm up because that group is building, right? And what's happening is interest rates are not going to go back to 2.5%. I mean, it's just not going to happen in the foreseeable future. We'll say that. What's happening, they've moderated to a traditionally normal number. What has to happen is psychologically that number needs to normalize, where people realize, okay, waiting is not going to help here. I'm still, if I want to move, I need to move now. I think we are at the beginning of that, kind of the Venn diagram of the I'm going to wait and I'm going to build, it's kind of coming together now. We're starting to approach the overlap. And so really, we think by the end of this year, beginning of next year, if everything stays fairly stable, we might start to see an increase in the mid-level side.
Interesting. I just have to throw out there, when I purchased my first home back in 1984, I think my interest rate was like 13 or 14%. So, and I made
Absolutely.
it
I remember when we moved to Winston-Salem. So I've lived here since the late 70s. So we still have, my parents live in the house that I grew up in. And I remember when they got that house, they bought it like when the rates were like at 7 or 8%, and then they went up to 15%, and the bank kept sending my father things saying, wouldn't you like to pay off your loan? We'll send you on a trip, you and your family on a trip, So it was back in the old days then. But yeah, I think things are moderating, and this is going to be the new normal, and that's just kind of the way it's going to be.
Interesting. So tell us a little bit about your journey, because we talked a little bit beforehand about you started in law enforcement. I see that you've had an amazing career in corporate America, including a local company, Inmar, that I think everybody in Winston is familiar with who they are. And now you're an entrepreneur. So tell me a little bit about that journey.
Sure, absolutely. And my journey couldn't begin unless I speak a little bit about my father's journey. So he was a Cuban immigrant who came to the US, went to the University of Illinois, got his bachelor's and master's in metallurgic engineering, became an engineer with Westinghouse, did that for many years, and then became an entrepreneur. He was the one, as a kid, I remember he bought some land over by Haynes Mall and put up a development called Woodland Hills. And I remember as a little kid, 7, 8, 9 years old, going out there with him, holding a surveying pole, well, because he would shoot the lots himself. And so, this was part of me at a very young age, but it instilled in me this kind of every Saturday morning we'd go out there, and it was such an enjoyable part of my childhood being with my father and, doing that stuff. It kind of got the juices flowing. Being in Winston, this is a place I love. I wanted to be and raise my family. So I grew up here. I was always in the emergency services. I was a volunteer fireman, loved that kind of thing. So I went to the University of Maryland, got my undergraduate degree in behavioral and social sciences, and came back here, and I was at Winston-Salem College for 5 years. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Was still what I say is the most fun, just raw fun, not necessarily high value or most rewarding, but the most fun I've ever had just in working has been in uniform as a cop, my best friend in the beat next to me, and just going out there and looking for trouble and getting rid of it when we find it. So that was so much an enjoyable part of me. I then went on and became an agent with the SBI. Really wanted to progress in law enforcement, so I did that, and I was an agent down in lovely Robinson County, North Carolina. Did homicides mostly. Then came up to this part in Randolph County for a little while. In the end, what happened was my daughter was born, and she's now 23 and 24, and I realized that I needed to do something that would enable me to be more family oriented in the future. So though I love law enforcement, I realized there was more there. So that was the toughest part, but that transition was able to happen because I'd always been on the technology side of law enforcement. And only because I wasn't afraid of computers. I made a lot of mistakes and I wasn't the smartest guy, but I was willing to go in there and hack around a little bit and try it. So I'd always been kind of involved in a lot of the technology things, computer crimes, just because I had an initial knowledge before there were really divisions that were created specifically for that purpose. But so I was able to transition out to go work for a law enforcement software company called OSSI that made software to run jails and communications. So that was how I transitioned out into the private sector, but was able to leverage my law enforcement knowledge. What I learned is that I have a particular aptitude to kind of project management, execution, and ultimately continuous improvement became the thing that I became very deep in. So after a while there, I had the opportunity to transition into one of my father's businesses. His entrepreneurship is was a local radio station and newspaper at the time called Que Pasa, which is a Spanish language radio station and newspaper here in Winston, with an edition in Raleigh and an edition in Charlotte as well. So my father kind of grew that across the state. I started to work for him and did that for several years until I came to the point where I realized, I'm in this job not because I'm the best person for this job, but because I'm my father's son. And that didn't sit well with me. And I give my father credit for that. He's, nepotism has always been something that has been just so the antithesis of who we are. And so what I realized is as kind and as wonderful an opportunity it was, and I knew I wanted to come back, I knew I couldn't look my coworkers in the eye and say, I'm here, as I have in every job I've had. I'm here because I was hired because I'm the right guy for the job. So at that point is when I decided to go back. I went to Wake, got my MBA. I transitioned out and I met my business partner. And so I left Que Pasa and I started a consulting company with him called TMP Partners. We did continuous improvement consulting. My business partner was a hardcore engineer from Danaher, a huge multinational conglomerate. And so I learned a lot from him on the continuous improvement, but also in the MBA program. Wake Forest has a great continuous improvement specialty in its MBA program. So that was a great part for me. Loved that work. We weren't mature enough to grow the business. We were just out of business school. So we did that for a few years. And then we decided, we're just not ready for this as much as we enjoy being entrepreneurs. So we transitioned it out. We sunset the business. He's now the COO of Vestas, a large, they make wind powered turbines. So he's done very well, done great. And I transitioned out to Inmar. So Inmar was looking to create an internal continuous improvement capability. They didn't have it and they wanted to create it. And I think they were going to either bring on a consultant, or in my case, they hired a consultant to come interior to the company. So my first assignment there was to create and deploy an continuous improvement division. So I hired some continuous improvement professionals, and we kind of went throughout the company and serviced the different parts of the company in business process optimization, which is just a joy for me, because it makes everything you do higher value, and that is kind of the ultimate calling that I have. So we did that, and again, really, really enjoyed that. Grew the division, and what I realized is I love this, and I want more of this. And I had the opportunity through my network. Someone reached out for me to basically do the same thing, but for a large multinational public company called WEX, WEX. And WEX is in the in the fleet and fleet fueling space, fleet maintenance and fueling. So they are the technology. At most gas pumps you go to, you'll see a thing that says Right Express or WEX. And it's like you have the Visa network and the American Express network. There's also a WEX network, which is really for companies to participate in. And they can also track their fleet mileage and maintenance. So I did that, and that was mostly between Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Brazil. It was really an international assignment. And I had to move my family up to Portland, Maine, which was an interesting, at the time, it was an interesting transition from Winston-Salem, North Carolina to Portland, Maine. But it was a wonderful experience. And as much as my kids were a little resistant to it at the first, now Maine is a second home for them.
Yeah,
North
I
Carolina
love
is home,
Maine.
home, home. But yeah, Maine is just a special place. That's all there is to it. It's a
Really
special
is.
place, and I love it. I'm staying in North Carolina, but I love Maine. So that was really international, the whole thing, and I was there for about 3 years, and so that was a lot of international travel, which is great from a personal development and a corporate development. My professional development standpoint. Tough on the family. I then had another opportunity where, again, someone had reached out. I had developed somewhat of a reasonably good reputation. There's a lot of great professionals that do what I do. I was able to at least hang with some of the at the shallow end of the pool with some of them. So the CEO of an aerospace and defense firm called API Technologies reached out to me because they needed to retool the company. It had been financially mismanaged, and so the board fired the CEO, hired a new CEO, and I came on board to be his VP of continuous improvement, and basically the kind of an acting COO to help get the company, to retool operations. So that's what we did. We took the company from public to private. I went on the roadshow with them, and we got the company sold in the warm segregated space of private company where prying eyes don't go in. I was able to kind of retool the operations of the company. We relaunched with great success, and the company sold again after I'd left, and did very well. But that last piece, after I'd finished doing the retooling and everything had kind of settled up, that's when I had reached out to David Mounts, who was the CEO of Inmar, about 6 months before that, and we'd been keeping touch. And I'll tell you, I'm a big fan of Dave Mounts. He was very good to me.
David.
So right? He's a very particular man. He's very demanding, but he makes you a better person, which is why I have nothing but respect and admiration for David. And he said, look, we want to create an M&A division here. And more than that, we want to create a mergers and acquisitions and integration division, right? Because almost anyone can just buy another company. That's not a hard thing to do. Getting it for a good price requires some savvy, but integrating that company, that's where all the money is. That's where that's where you get your synergies. That's where you get your value. So he was very particular about, look, you're a process guy, you're process improvement. So you can do the M&A stuff, but the real focus is on the integration. So I came on board, I did that, loved it. It was wonderful. Acquired several companies, integrated them in. And then kind of my last assignment before I left was to take over what's the largest operating division of the company. It's the RX returns, where basically 95% of all the pharmaceuticals in the U.S. that aren't sold, so they're not dispensed to a customer, they get returned, they're expired, they're adulterated, whatever it might be, something has to happen. You have to dispose of those drugs in some way. And there's a lot of credits that pharmacies get for whatever they don't sell. So Inmar has this large facility down in Texas in which virtually all the drugs that go back come through this facility. We have tractor trailers, the dozen tractor trailers full of oxycodone and everything else backing up to this every day, dumping stuff off, and we dispose of that. We get people credit for it, and then we have it incinerated to keep everyone safe. So I ran that for a while through COVID, which was an interesting time. And really at the end, Inmar was getting ready to reach a transition point, as was evidenced by David left. A lot of the guy who I worked for, the president, he left, and so a lot of that was going on. So that was beginning. It happened to happen at a time at which my father was getting ready to transition out of being a silent partner for his building company, J&L Construction, that my partner Jose Londoño and my father had. My father has always been a silent partner. He's been kind of like you, a senior advisor. He's a great advisor to it. But he's 80 years old, and he'll never be retired. He's semi-retired. So he doesn't want to be involved in the day-to-day. Jose is the consummate builder, quality focused, excellent. I am stronger in the areas of business acquisition, business operations than he is, and he is 1,000 times stronger in the building side of it than I am. Match made in heaven. Our Venn diagram doesn't have a lot of overlap, which is wonderful because together we cover the whole field. And so I hat in hand went to him and said humbly, because my father had basically said, look, if you want to buy the business, you can buy the other half and take it yourself. So I went to him and said, you were promised that, and that's yours. Yeah, I'm not going to get in the way of that. But if you would like, I wouldn't mind being your partner, taking over the other half of the business, and you and I can do it together. And I am happy to say he was enthusiastic about that. And so it was the match made in heaven, and that happened back about a year and a half ago, not quite 2 years ago. And we've taken off from then. My focus, as soon as we took over the business, was let's become approved in Brookberry. We've been approved in Granville in Greensboro, which is kind of the Brookberry Greensboro, or
Yeah.
maybe if you want to say the Brookberry is the Grandover. I don't want to get involved in what's first, but so
I think
getting a lot
Grandover may have been first. I'm
first,
not sure.
absolutely. But basically help to increase the exposure we have, and also because we operate at the highest level of quality, we want to be in those places. We want to be in high quality places that have great reputations, but it's not that we only want to build for the people that are buying $1 million homes, right? We want to offer our services to everyone at quality. That's really our thing. Is we provide higher quality at a lower price. We're not the low price leader at all, right? But we offer at a very reasonable price the highest quality you can get. And the reason we can do it, honestly, is because of our subs. Is because Jose was born in Colombia. He is a U.S. resident now, and speaks Spanish fluently, and we're very connected with the local Hispanic population. As you may know, 90% of the subs that are out there are Hispanic, right? And the fact that it's not that we speak Spanish and others don't. It's that there's a certain understanding that you have to have from a cultural perspective. And some of the things, like some of these folks, they live hand to mouth, as some people do. And so if they need cash at the end of the week instead of a check, we'll pay them cash at the end of the week. Well, we will accommodate them. But that means that when something happens and there's a problem and we need to call and get 5 or 6 people in tomorrow morning, they show up because they know they'll pass on other jobs to come to our job.
And the culture is so very loyal. That's the one thing I've learned.
100%. You got 100%.
And I'm not Hispanic and I don't speak Spanish, but when you serve them, they become super loyal. And that's one thing I love about the Spanish culture, the Hispanic culture.
100%. Their loyalty does not come easily, but by God, once you've gotten it, you should treat it like the treasure that it is, because to us, it's a key business differentiator. And it's something that a lot of people have a hard time understanding with the way we kind of bid things and we do it. They're like, how are they doing this? And the answer is really that we have that activity. And also it's just Jose and I, and we're not, we want to grow this business. We want to be successful, but we don't have to make $1 bazillion, right? We can keep our sweet spot of being doing a good job, of being financially sound, of making very conservative decisions, and then building our company slowly. That's what we like. We don't finance our constructions. We have put every penny back into the business, so we have cash to do all our acquisitions and all our, if there's a big opportunity, we will have to do that. But right now, we're doing it all in-house, and it's only because we've saved the pennies, saved the pennies, saved the pennies, no distributions. Let's build this, build this, build this. So,
Well, boy, you
it's
just
worked for
answered
us.
my next question. It was, are there other investors to help you move this thing forward? And so you're self-financing. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and I'm always open to other to investors that add, but we're not, we're in a position where we don't need financial help. If we had investors, it would be because we have people who can bring more to the game. They can add to our core
Right.
competency, a core capability. We would always be open to that, and we've kind of structured corporately such that we can create an equitable profit sharing type of environment without involving the actual ownership of the business, but still let investors benefit. But yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate, but I always like to say we're very lucky. But it's amazing how lucky you get when you plan and you work hard. So we
And you
plan, we
work
work
hard,
hard,
yes.
and we've been lucky. Yeah, so
Yes, that's where luck comes from. Absolutely. So you've
amazing.
already shared that you're the key person on the business side of what happens at your organization. Tell us a little bit, like, what does that look like? What is your role on a day-to-day basis in the organization?
Well, I will just say that I think the most key person in this business is my partner, not me at all. I'll just say that to start with. He is the guy. He's the man that builds the houses. So Jose is number one. I'm number two. In my number two position, I will say my focus is on two things. First, business reputation, and then business acquisition. So business reputation, I was very fortunate that Jose had and my father had created an extremely high level of customer satisfaction. Right now, we only have, I think we've got 10 five-star reviews on Google, right? Nothing, and that won't last. There's always someone, and we'll probably have a bad review at some point because unfortunately, there's always one, right? There's always kind
Yeah.
of one who doesn't necessarily operate in the bounds of reality, but that's the nature of the business. But right now, every single person has been, thrilled with our construction. And so again, that was the treasure that I wanted to make sure we held on to. So my first sensitivity is for anything that's going to in any way compromise our reputation. So to me, that's a daily check on what's going on in the world, a call to one of our current customers. How is everything going? Good communications. So I really start my day on how are we doing? Right. I'm not going to assume that we're doing good. I'm going to reach out there. I'm going to check our reviews, talk to the customers that we have, kind of go through this process in the morning. And that's kind of when there's not anything else specifically going. It's how we do it. Then it switches kind of to business acquisition. And for us, really, had a lot of word of mouth. We had a lot of success with our first spec home in Brookberry. People walking through saying, "I love this house. I want some differences, but could you build me a house?" And next thing you know, our next house in Brookberry that we're getting ready to start, actually, we just started it last week, is about a $2 million house for a local businessman who walked through our spec home and said, "This is beautiful, but I'd like something bigger." And we said, "We can do that for you."
We can do that.
So I follow up on those leads that we get from the website, everything else. And so that's kind of I'm breaking my day up into thirds. So reputation, business acquisition, and the last piece is, and this kind of scattered throughout the day, is really in the business operations. So right now, what we have in the pipeline, we really have three main areas that we are working on, four main areas. Number one, we have started our first housing development that we own, lock, stock, and barrel. It's called Hidden Woods Village. It's up in Stanleyville, close to University and Stanleyville Drive, near where the new Walmart is up there, and it's right off the new Beltway. So it's one of these places that it wasn't all that desirable location because it's kind of out there. Now it's right off the Beltway, so you can get to Greensboro, the airport, into Winston without having to take 52. And so we got this development that was started about 15 years ago, and then the bottom fell out, and one of the partners left, and the other partner was left holding the bag, and they've been sitting on it since then. And last year they'd been sitting on it long enough that they came down in price to make it a reasonable price. It had the roads in, it had all the utilities, and everything was in, and they stopped it. So we picked it up. We've had to kind of, unfortunately, they didn't finish it. So a lot of the agencies were basically looking at it like it had never even started. So we've had to do a lot of kind of talking. But I will tell you, the city of Winston-Salem and the DOT has definitely embrace the spirit that it was there, and that if we didn't buy it, it was going to sit fallow and just be useless. So they were all willing to reasonably, that they're not letting us slide with important things, but they were willing to work with us to be able to kind of to relaunch it. So we've done that. We'll be starting our first homes there. We'll probably put about 20 homes in there, and those will be homes in the low threes. Those will be, I think they start in the upper twos, and they'll, most of them will be in the 305, 310, 315 range.
Tell me the
So
name of
this
that
is
development again, just so that anybody
hidden,
can hear it.
sure, Hidden Woods Village. Hidden Woods Village. And if you go to jandlnc.com, that's jandandlnc.com. That's our website, and you can see we've got a portfolio of all our construction, but we also had some cool shots of the development. They've started clearing and everything else. But you can also, if you have interest in it, you can put a note in there and reach out to us. But so we're really excited, right? That the bane of residential construction is being kind of at the whim of either of commercial custom construction, of getting customers to do that, and then trying to find lots to build spec homes. So ultimately, if you're in a position to have the capital to be able to do your own development, you capture the development value of upfitting the land plus the building value. So you really, if you can put those things together, and so we're trying for the first time, and it's exciting and it's scary and it's wonderful and it's anxiety building all together. But that's what being an entrepreneur is all about. I mean, it expands you to places you didn't think you could go, you didn't know you could do, and you just got to try it. You're going to fail. Yeah, you're going to fail, but by God, you get up and you keep going. So
there is no failing. There's only winning and learning. And
that's it. There's the losing. I agree.
I think that that's wonderful. So, you're launching this whole new development. You've also done some, higher value developments in the past. How do you market what you do? You mentioned you have a website, but what are some of the other marketing strategies, and what percentage of your income is invested in marketing, if any?
Yeah, so great question. Not surprisingly, we have folks, reaching out to us on a daily basis about providing marketing services for us. So the one thing I kind of take away from the corporate world is I'm not skeptical of marketing. Marketing is incredibly important, incredibly powerful if done correctly. What I am very concerned about is the lack of performance metrics that often come with kind of this marketing, just an amorphous, we're going to market things, right? I'm a metrics guy. That's what defines me. So when I look at the cost of a marketing campaign, what I look for is, what is my return on that investment specifically? Not, well, you'll have more sales, nice, but what is the benchmark that tells me that this is working? And it's very difficult. So until I can really find some sort of a program that I really feel hits our target audience and is really worth his bang for the buck, I am the marketing division now, which is not a great thing. But because we've had enough word of mouth out there, I go out, we talk to our friends. We actively solicit our previous people that have bought our homes. Right now, I think our record is we have built a home. We built a business, a dental business, and a home for one of our customers. The other customer is about to sell their house and wants us to build another house. We have probably 6 customers that are repeat customers for homes or commercial construction. So we leverage that. And what I do is we talk to them and I ask them, hey, do you have any friends that that are, I won't, I'd love to be able to reach out to anyone that you know. And so it's very low key, but it's very high impact. I would say that I'm probably getting, for each reach out I have with one of these kind of leads, I probably turn about 1 in 4 into a sale, which is, from a sales standpoint, getting a 25% hit on kind of reach outs is incredible, right? I mean, especially if you're like cold calling, then it's, you're lucky to get 1% or 0.5% or something like that. So, but that's been it. And then really we've been focusing on we haven't really geared up the big publicity on Hidden Woods yet, because we're just starting. I want to wait till we have the model homes about finished. So that's probably going to be about the end of the year. We'll really start a campaign on Hidden Woods and figure. So that'll probably be the first time that we actively market, and we'll do that with our realty partner.
very good friend of mine bought a home, I don't know, probably 8, 10 years ago now in Greensboro. Probably at the time it was a $600,000 or $700,000 home. And her builder had her throw a party for all of her friends as an open house for her new, um, to invite them to come to her new home. They paid for all of the food and booze, but they
Hey,
attended.
I like
And
them.
they made and that was their marketing strategy. So I don't know if you'll be able to implement that into your game plan, but they
I
said
like
they
the sound
left
of it.
every single party that they hosted with their new clientele with 4 or 5 leads. And they said pretty much every house sells one more house at least. And
That,
I
to
thought
me,
that was
that sounds
brilliant.
that would be right up our alley, right? That's the sort of thing that I would love to do for sure. So
Yeah.
that sounds great.
So what we say when we're working with our clients, people say they'll talk to me about marketing, well, do I need a new logo? I was like, before you change your logo or hire a marketing agency, let's look at what you're doing right now because marketing is math. And for every dollar you put in, think of it as an ATM. If you're not getting $3 or $4 back out, then your marketing's not working. And it's amazing how many people aren't interested in those metrics and testing and measuring. I do know a couple of agencies that are actually pretty good at metrics. So if you're ever interested, we can talk about that at another day.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. And I'll tell you that the one thing that I did when I first started was exactly what you said. So I looked at what's the current state of marketing, and the website not good. All this is not good. So that's what I spent my first 3 months doing was finding a local web designer to help us design the website. You'll see, I think it's pretty good because it's simple and it lets you see our portfolio and then lets you ask for it. Again, it doesn't have a lot of flash and all that stuff, but it's there. It's simple. You can find what you want. It looks professional. To me, that was the key. Simple professional business cards, simple professional, LinkedIn site, all that sort of stuff. That's what I started with, so that as then we reached out, I would be pulling people to see the stuff we wanted to see. Before we got into Brookberry, we redid our website. The last thing in the world I wanted to do is have the Brookberry clientele coming to kind of the old website that didn't look. So now we have what I would call, a website that was worth it. So 100% start with where you are, get that kind of. We didn't spend a lot of money either. We didn't, and I'll tell you. So one of the things that Brookberry did for us is they redesigned our logo. They came in and they said, and they were great partners with us. It's through their partnership with Berkshire Hathaway. They redesigned the logo. So we used the local, the resources available. Didn't cost us anything. It was just part of being with that. They did it. They did a fantastic job. We're doing Lenore Ryan is the one who's doing our Hidden Woods development, and they're going to work on the marketing side for them. Actually, my business partner Jose's other son is a realtor with Lenore Ryan, so he's doing it there. We got a lot of family folks involved here, but only because they're the right people for the job. That's I've made it very clear that we make sure we got the right folks for the job. Family means we can trust them, but make sure that they're the right folks for the job.
Yep, just like you wanted to make sure you were the right person
Amen.
in that role, and when you weren't, you stepped away. And one of the things, after spending a few minutes with you already on video, I'm going to tell you that you need to sell your projects, and videos of you talking about the why you build what you build and the quality. You should make sure that we've got you on video on your website, because people buy from people. And if I was looking to buy a house, I would buy from you. So that's what
Hey,
I
wow, I'm already getting a free strategy session right here. Look at this, is great. I appreciate the advice. And I will tell you that one of my prime axioms of business and life is what I recognize is the business value and the life value of joy, right? So I love what I do. If I didn't, I would go do something else. When I was a cop, I loved doing that. Well, I love building now. If I didn't, I wouldn't do it because I can't fake it. I'm not very good at putting a veneer on. I enjoy I exude it. I don't, I exude that too.
Mhm.
So I really try to, there are people in this world who kind of put energy into the room and there's people who kind of suck it out. I like being around, and I try to be the person who puts energy in a business environment and all those things. There's so many small issues that come up. And if you approach them positively, saying, hey, there's a problem, we're here to fix it. That's it. Or you can spend your life, throwing up your hands and trying to create controversy, or you can focus on solving problems and making the world a better place. And that's simply what I choose to do. And maybe it's a mistake, but for me, the
No,
complexities
I
generally
don't
add
think it
headaches
is.
and everything else.
But I am going to ask you because it sounds like your transitions were so smooth from one to the other. And we all know that when we tell our stories, sometimes we make it seem easier than it may have been. So as you look back on your journey so far, what has been the most memorable roadblock or hurdle that you were challenged with that you were forced to overcome?
Probably the greatest psychological and emotional change for me was coming out of law enforcement because being an SBI agent at that time was who, not just what I did, but it's who I was. For 8 years of my life, I put a gun on, whether I was, in uniform or not, and I lived my life that way, being a person whose job it was to pay attention and to keep people safe and to enforce the laws. So it had really become who I was. So the hardest part of leaving law enforcement was accepting the fact that that was no longer going to be who I was, and I didn't know what it was going to be like to be on the other side of that. So it took the birth of my daughter, looking at my baby daughter. I mean, it took that sort of gravity in my life to say, it's time, yes, there's a lot of scary, it's scary, there's a lot of apprehension, but you got to do this. It's the right thing to do. And I did. I knew it was the right thing to do. That gave me the momentum and the drive needed to kind of get past that. That was probably the single biggest kind of emotional psychological one. From a corporate standpoint, from a business, it was going to work. It was moving to Maine to work for Wex because that was a big unknown. It really was a step up, so I was very happy with that. But I had this. I was in the middle of the school year, so I was 6 months by myself in corporate housing in Portland. Sadly, flying back every other weekend to spend time with the family, and that it was, and my first day was January 3rd in Portland, Maine. It was my first day of work. So, I came into the snowstorm. So yeah, you're right. There was some very, I'll call them dark times, but the thing that they weren't really, I don't remember them that way, was because there was darkness in the being away from the family and being lonely. But I knew they were coming. It was, we can put up with so much if we know it's temporary.
Right.
It was the right thing to do. It was the right move, the right growth opportunity. So that made it the right thing to do, but it kind of sucked until they got up there, and then it was wonderful. So that was probably the biggest one. Coming back to North Carolina was just all smiles. Was not a problem, and especially because I knew I was coming back to work for David and was just thrilled about that, and knew bringing the family back, and so that was no problem. But that's what I'd say. Leaving law enforcement was the biggest traumatic thing for me, and then moving out of North Carolina up there to work for Wex was the kind of the biggest career and kind of family move that I made.
Gotcha. So we've talked a lot about the past. As we look forward beyond Hidden Woods Village, where do you see your business in the next, I normally say 3 to 5 years, but it might be 5 years and beyond for you. What's the big goal? Like, how do you approach that for looking towards the future?
Well, coming from the world of M&A, I'll start with kind of the end game, which is kind of where everyone kind of ultimately wants to get to, right? So it's like, are you building to sell, or are you building a lifestyle business, or what's the goal here? And I'll say we are approaching this, I think, which is the right way to approach business. We are here to grow a business. We're just here to grow it as big as reasonably makes sense to us. And that size is defined not by a number, but by a sense that we can weather any storm that comes, right? That, to me, that's the size that matters. Is that we're in the kind of single digit millions now is kind of where we are in the mid range or so. We're somewhat around doubling each year, not quite doubling each year. So it's been very good. That's easy to do, harder to do. When it's $1 million, doubling is hard, but not too bad. And then when it's 5 going to 10, that's even harder.
Mhm.
But we are very thankful that we've got enough in the funnel that we are seeing this growth. We're just going to keep doing that, keep trying to expand. We're very, very cautious about costs, about the overhead side. So another reason why we're able to keep our prices low is that I described what the company is, and that's it. We're keeping our overhead very, very low. So we only will bring on staff as we bring on the business. We want to match the business with the staff very, very closely. But we also want to make sure we don't hire and fire people, right? So we want to make sure that we have a good, solid basis and then bring the best folks in permanently. we can deal with the flex as needed. We've got some folks who can kind of do some part-times for us, but I want to bring on people that will be with us for 20 years and pay
Mhm.
them and treat them in a way that there's no question about that. And we're prepared to do that. So I just want to keep growing, and then if we get to the point, let's just say we reach, say, $20 million in sales in 5 years. Maybe we get that. What do we do then? I think that's a wonderful discussion to have with my partner and my wife, and say, hey, here's what we're doing. What do you think? What do you like? Yeah, we could sell if we just wanted to get out. But at this point, I'm having too much fun. And I think, the idea is that we are building a business for the future. And, we plan on owning this business, for the long term. But we're open, good business opportunities. We will never turn our nose up at. But I think that's our general approach. Excellent job, quality construction, slow, methodical, and consistent growth that is sustainable. That's what it is. Yeah, we're doubling whatever, but when I talk to the banks, I'm like, yeah, we're looking at 15, 20% a year that's what we're looking for each time. And we come back and we made 50, 75, or 100% increase. Wonderful for everyone. But that's 15, 20%. I'm never going to complain. Just keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. Sustain it, build on it. That's what we're doing.
Awesome. So we have covered a lot of ground, and this is an interesting journey. I know that the business owners who are watching this are going to find so much value. So as we wrap up, I wanted to call this like the rapid fire section. I'm going to ask
All
you
right.
a bunch of questions, short, sweet answers that can be real points of value for your insight for other business owners and entrepreneurs who maybe are trying to do what you're doing. So first one is, what is the key to success for you?
The key to my success is integrity, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Keep on
Awesome.
going. Integrity, integrity, integrity.
What is your one piece of advice for other business owners?
One is none, two is one. Find a great business partner.
Awesome. I could go on forever about tragic partnerships. I've known a few really good ones, and it's because they did take the time to really understand each other, find their uniqueness, as you said, that they bring to the business, and then stay in their lane, but support each other. And it sounds like you've just really hit that. If there is one book that you're either reading now or you've read most recently that you think you would want to share with other business owners, what would that be?
The Toyota Way by Jeffrey Likert. Dr. Likert, The Toyota Way is a book that is eminently readable that really talks about process excellence and how you achieve it. And it is my absolute favorite, simple, understandable. Anyone can read it, and it was required reading by anyone that ever worked for me.
Awesome. Well, I haven't read that one, so I will make sure I read it. And
Sure.
one final, I guess, maybe one or two final questions. If you had to choose one area of your business that you could immediately improve, like you could wave a magic wand and say, this is going to be the focus, this is what we're going to improve, what would it be?
Penetration into the high value commercial market. Right now, a lot of it's by invitation only. You have to be multi-state, you have to all these things. So it's been very tough to get into that.
High value commercial market. I just
Yeah.
spoke last week for the North Carolina NCHEA, North Carolina Health Engineering, and it's all of the organizations that build hospitals. It was engineers and designers and architects. And is that the type of market when you say high-end commercial?
So absolutely yes, right. So we're here with with all the local hospitals. So they have a lot of programs that help to get to smaller builders involved. But the bottom line is you don't get the big commercial jobs unless you're Davy Construction or someone else. It's how I've tried to articulate it is you've got to be low risk for them. It's like back in the day it used to be, oh yeah, hire IBM because you can't get fired for hiring IBM, right? Even if they screw up, you picked IBM, so you can't, it's not your fault. And so a lot of the big constructors, Davy Construction's like that. I'm good friends. Have been going to, went to church with the folks over at Davy Construction, the ownership there. They're great people, but they're very low risk for anyone. If you're McDonald's and you're going to put them in McDonald's, do you hire J&L who, hey, we may do a great job, but if I'm the one hiring, I want Davy Construction because, even if they do screw it up, and they probably won't, right? it's not my fault. So that's the tough thing to get over. We're doing small local people first, doing their commercial work, trying to build ourselves up. But so you're right. Yes, getting into that sort of a thing is where we want to be.
Awesome. And then my one final question, and before I get into that, before I ask my final question, how do people find you? You said it's JANDLNC.com.
That's it. That's the J and L North Carolina, JandLNC.com. That's our website. And from there, you can find it. You can find us, everything about us.
Awesome. So I'll make sure I put that on the podcast as well. And there's no other way. Do you want to give an email or just the website?
Sure, for sure. So you can, you're always welcome to email me directly, which is Isasi, which is DISASI. So my last name is a palindrome, same way frontward to backwards, ISASI, ISASI. So it's Isasi at jandlnc.com. You are certainly welcome to shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer questions, or, we love collaborations and we love working with other entrepreneurs here. I've gone out of my way to find local, everything from photographers to interior designers to our website. Every single company is a local small entrepreneur. It's who I like to do business with.
Awesome. Okay, so our one final question. What is most inspiring to you today?
Today, probably the most inspiring thing I see is, I'm prejudiced. I have 3 children. I have my oldest daughter, Caroline, my middle son, Ashton, and my youngest daughter, Addison. And, they are all now out of the house. Ashton's at UNCG, Addison's at Appalachian. And my daughter, of all things, was a music teacher. She went to University of New Hampshire, was a music teacher, and then left. And she's now halfway through rookie school to be a cop in New Hampshire. Which was something that's out of left field. And I never talk to my kids about it being a cop. It's just something that happened. So the thing that inspires me is my children, hands down, full stop, to see how a lot of the things that us old people look at, say, oh, technology, oh my God, going to, the world's going to the doghouse. I see the joy of life in them. I see how they use kind of some of the things that we're suspect with for very positive, good things. I try to see life through their eyes, and it inspires me to not be jaded. I also keep a little bit of jadedness because I know, there's bad things out there, and I want to protect my family and my kids from that. But that's what inspires me, is to see that generation, to see the joy and the value they see in a lot of the things that as an older generation we're a little suspect with. I try to take that to heart and keep an open mind about where things are, and know that probably when telephones were invented, they thought, we were all going to hell because the telephone is going to, you don't have to go talk to someone face to face. So, okay, I'm an old guy. I get it. I'll try and keep an open mind, but that's where my inspiration comes from, the next generation.
Absolutely. I'm raising a grandson, and he is just got his license, and he's going off to junior year high school today. And just seeing his vision for the future, he also wants to go to NC State, and he wants to study logistics. So
hey, let me tell you what, that's a fantastic, I tell the 2 things that I recommend people if they want kind of a supply chain stuff, logistics, and if they want computer stuff, security. If you want an absolute no-brainer way to get a job, you come out, I would say analytics, logistics, and security. That's the 3 things. If you're math-oriented, analytics; if you're computer-oriented, security; and if you kind of are process-oriented, logistics. And you'll be able to write your own ticket. So very good.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Domingo. Again, if you haven't liked and subscribed, make sure you click all the buttons. If you've got any questions for Domingo about his business and his transition, his journey that was so interesting, please put them in the comment section and we'll make sure he gets them. Thank you again for your time, and make sure you check back for our next episode of the Business Spotlight interview. Thank you.